Hi, this is Mon Rasz and you are listening to my daily thoughts number 1. Today's reflections are about life itself. The basic questions are: what is life? What defines life? Why do we live? Let's start out with the first one. Every form of life, from microorganisms, plants, animals, to human beings, are able to perform an action. Dead matter can't. A piece of rock cannot get up on its own and move to another place. So we could say, where there is life, there is movement. And to make it real short, we could say, life corresponds to voluntary action or movement. Everything that lives shows some sort of planned or voluntary action, such as to move, reproduce and grow, and consumes energy doing that. So we have already our first keyword, which is planned or voluntary, and it suggests that there is some sort of thought process or spirit involved. An action, our second keyword, is when something material is changed, like when you move a muscle or when a plant grows. And finally, energy needs to be present to make everything work, our third keyword. So life is defined by 3 ingredients: thought process or spirit, a vehicle or body to act upon, and energy. Take one away and life as we know it ends. Let's take a look at some examples. Just imagine a living person and a dead body. Both are made out of the same material, however one has a spirit, the other not. Or think about a bee that has traveled too far from the beehive and is running out of energy. It would die. But what about a computer? It has a kind of thought process, a material body to act upon, like in a robot, and it needs energy. So does the computer live? Within the confines of this discussion, until now, we would have to say yes. Remove the CPU or unplug the power cable and the computer is dead. But this somehow doesn't sound right, does it? A computer or robot being a form of life? A robot most definitely has a body that it can use for performing an action, and it consumes energy. So what's left to talk about is thought process and spirit. A robot also has a great deal of thought, or let's say data processing, that's for sure. It can perform some tasks much better than we can. Robots could be built that reproduce themselves and develop their own programming further, even to a point that we cannot anticipate. Being all that possible, would robots have a spirit? What is spirit to begin with? In the beginning, I mentioned voluntary movement for being one of the signs to recognize life. While voluntary has to do with thinking, it also has to do with will. Ergo, there must be a thought process possible in the first place, but then this thought process must be combined with something that allows to go beyond, like creativity, free will and self-awareness. And this is what makes us so much different from a robot, which just doesn't have what we call spirit. Therefore, let's change our checkmark list of the 3 prerequisites for life. Life needs a spirit, not just a thought process, a body that the spirit can act upon, and energy. For right now, I leave it up to one of the next daily thoughts to discuss what level of spirit animals and plants have. Let's just presume that they do have a spirit in some form or another, since they can show voluntary movement, have a body and need energy. Now that we have answered the first two questions, what is life and what defines life, we can take on question number 3. Why do we live? The easy part of the answer is the biological aspect of life. Wherever we were coming from and however long it took to get us here, there is nothing that disputes that we are at the very end of a long chain of beings that somehow managed to survive and give life before they died. So it seems our biological purpose in life is just that: manage to survive and provide for new life before we die. End of story, is it? Regarding our body, the biological aspect of life, I think it's fair to say yes. But life is defined by the 3 ingredients: spirit, body and energy. When a life form is dead, its body is without spirit. The control over the body is lost. But what happens to the spirit and energy? Energy itself doesn't get lost, it just changes forms. We learned that in school. As a matter of fact, the body doesn't get lost either, it just changes forms too. And by the way, quantum physics tells us that matter is just another form or vibration of energy. What remains is the question about the spirit. What happens to the spirit in the moment of death or after death? Is the spirit a separate entity or does it come with the body? Are we reborn? This thousands of year-old question need to be answered by everyone on its own, because there is no scientific proof possible. You probably know my opinion on this subject, and I'm referring to my regression audio tapes that I have posted. But it's nothing more than my opinion. You have to decide for yourself. Before we come to the end of today's daily thoughts, allow me to give you 3 references of books worth reading. Max Freedom Long and his book about Huna Magic, explaining the physical body-spiritual body relationship. Then Dr. Brian Weiss and his experiences with regression therapy, written down in his books Many Masters, Many Lives, and Through Time into Healing. And Sogyal Rinpoche with his Tibetan book of Living and Dying. For today, I thank you for your time. May the higher spirit help us evolve. Until the next daily thoughts, yours truly, Mon Rasz. And today's post-lectum is: imagine a car and a driver. The driver likes his car very much and takes good care of it, because he is handicapped and cannot walk. So he needs the car for getting around. One day, the driver had just provided for a full tank of gas and was about to go on a long trip, when an accident happened. It was his fault. Since the car was totaled, it had to be pulled to a junkyard for recycling. The gas was used by another driver for her car. The question remains unanswered: what did happen to the handicapped driver? Did he survive the accident, or did he have to die because his car sort of died? If he survived, he could have located a new vehicle and, being on the road again, maybe as a better driver, supposed that he had learned from his mistakes in the last accident.